Okay, let's move into the next steps for graphing. The next method, basically, if you have an entire quadratic equation, a quadratic function, we have y equals an x squared plus an x plus some constant, so ax squared plus bx plus c. We talked about this when we talked about like quadratic formula and so forth, right? So you should know what they all are. Okay, the steps are in your notes on page 9, right at the top. So I just took a picture of them and put them in there for you. Okay, so the first step that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to draw the axis of symmetry. Okay, and hopefully you remember what that is. That's the line that goes right down the middle of your parabola. Okay, and so what you're going to do, to draw your axis of symmetry, you're going to use this formula. Okay, the formula is right there. The x, or the coordinate that your line's going to go down, okay, so the x value, is going to be at negative b over 2a. Okay, so you put the b in, on the top or in the numerator, and then 2 times the a value, and then once you've got that answer, you make it the opposite sign, and that is where your x value will be for your axis of symmetry. So you could draw your line right down that side, and you will know that both sides will mirror that line. Okay. Now, once you have that, you have to go and find exactly where your vertex is. Okay. So the vertex is the highest or the lowest point. Remember, depending on which way it opens, either up or down. Okay. And so what you do, basically, the value that you got for finding the axis of symmetry, you plug that value in for all your x's. Okay. And whatever you end up with, that'll be your y value for it. Okay. Now, I can talk you through all this, but the bottom line is it's going to be a little easier if we just start doing it. Okay, so let's look at our example. We have y equals 3x squared plus 6x minus 1. Okay, so our a value is 3, our b value is 6, and our c value is negative 1. Okay, so the first thing the notes say to do, find our axis of symmetry. Well, let me get a graph in here really quick. Hold on. Okay, got my graph. I'm like Harry Potter. It just appears, right? Now, here we go. So, to find the axis of symmetry, okay, we use the equation that we have up top here. X equals negative b over 2a. So, we got x equals negative b is 6 over 2 times a, which is 3. Okay, so 6 over 2 times 3, that's 6 over 6, which equals 1, right? And you make it negative, so it's our axis of symmetry is at x equals negative 1. So we go on our x line, okay, so we're going across, we go to negative 1, and we're going to draw our axis of symmetry. Okay, all the way down that line. So we know that's the middle of our graph, is along that line. Okay, now, the next part we're going to do, we have to find out where the top or the bottom of our graph is. But actually, we should already know which way our graph opens, right? And hopefully you know how to peek for that. If you remember, okay, you look at the a value, okay, the value before the x squared, and it's positive. So since it's positive, that means we know that our graph is going to open up. Okay, if it was negative, it's going to open down, right? All right, so now we take our x value, which is negative 1, and we plug it back into the equation to find the vertex. So y equals 3 times negative 1 squared plus 6 times negative 1 minus 1. So negative 1 squared is 1 times 3 is 3 plus negative 6 minus 1. So 3 and negative 6 makes negative 3 minus 1, negative 4. Okay, so that's our y value. Our x value is negative 1. So there's our vertex, negative 1, 4. So down over 1, down 4, there is our vertex. Okay, now that we've found all that, okay, let's see if I can move some stuff around here. Oh, that shrinks everything, but that'll work. Okay, we'll move it up a little bit. Okay, we found our vertex. Okay, now here's what you want to do. you basically want to plot 2 points from one side of the axis of symmetry. Okay? So, we're going to use our equation. Y equals 3x squared plus 6x minus 1. Okay? Pick a value, okay, on either side. Let's go with a positive value. So let's go with 0. So if x is equal to 0, you get y equals 3 times 0 squared is 0, plus 6 times 0 is 0. Y equals negative 1. Okay? So when x is 0, y is negative 1. So that point, let me blow this back up for a second. Here we go. So at 0, y is negative 1. Okay? And we'll shrink it back down so we can do some more work. There we go. Okay, and the next point, let's go with 1. How about 1? So if x is 1, okay, y equals 3 times 1 squared is 3, plus 6 times 1 is 6, minus 1. 3 and 6 is 9 minus 1. That's 8. Okay, so let's go back to our graph. So when x is 1, y is 8. So 1 all the way up here at 8. Oh, forgot to put my pen. There we go. There we go. Alright, now, next step. Once you have your points on one side of the graph, all you have to do is use your axis of symmetry and plot the mirror image on the other side. So we're going to go up here to negative 1 and our dot that we have right on this side, okay, right there. Okay, we're going to mirror that on the other side 1 away. Okay, so there's our symmetrical dot. Okay, and then we're going to go all the way up here to the other one at 8, and that's 2 away from our line, so we're going to go 2 to the left this time and do another mirroring dot. Okay, and then you just connect your graph. So we go, there's one part, and it goes straight up there, and then we connect the other one and go all the way up there. And there is our parabola. Okay, it opens up, so we're good. Okay, it mirrors our axis of symmetry, so we're good. Okay, there you go. That is the basics to it. Okay, pretty simple, right? I didn't pick the exact same spots that they have in your notes, so don't freak out about that. Okay, so they use some negative values. I used positive values. It'll work out exactly the same either way you do it, so don't stress about that. And then on there you can add the little parabola to the notes there. Alright, okay, so we have another example, so let's keep on going. Okay, let's take a look here now. So our next example, y equals x squared minus 6x plus 5. So you should be able to look at that right now and tell me which way it is going to open. The value of the coefficient before x squared is positive, so that means it's going to open up. Okay. Alright, so now let's go on to the next part. So first thing we got to find, axis of symmetry, right? And how do we do that? We use the equation x equals negative b over 2a. Okay? Alright, then we plug them in. So negative b is negative 6, so negative b would be, well, we'll just do it this way. How about this? Negative 6 over 2 times a is 2 times 1. So we end up with negative 6 over 2, which is negative 3. We got negative 3 is positive 3. Okay, so our axis of symmetry is going to be at positive 3. Oh, let me get my graph on here. Hold on. Alright, I may quit this teaching thing and become a magician. I keep letting things appear, right? It's pretty cool. Alright, so our axis of symmetry is at x equals 3. So let's go on our x line and go over 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. It's right there. And our axis of symmetry will go straight up that line and straight down that line. Apparently I draw straighter up than I do down. Okay. And our graph is opening up, so we probably want to make that line all go all the way to the top. Alright, now we have our axis of symmetry. So now we need to find our vertex. So we put 3 into the equation. So y equals 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 5. So 3 squared is 9, minus 6 times 3 is minus 18 plus 5. 9 minus 18 gives us negative 9 plus 5. That gives us negative 4. So our vertex is at negative 4. So we're going to put our vertex, I'll do this in a different color, right there. Okay, so that is the bottom of our parabola right there. Alright, so let's pick 2 more points, okay, and they got to be on the same side here. I'm going to do 0, because 0 always works out pretty well, right? So I'm going to do my little chart, x and y, okay, and it's x squared minus 6x plus 5. Okay, so if x is 0, got 0 minus 0 plus 5, y is 5. So when x is 0, y is 5. That goes right there. And when x is, we'll do 1. When x is 1, we got 1 minus 6 plus 5. And 1 minus 6 is negative 5 plus 5, 0. So at 1, there you go. Okay? And x is 1, y is 0. So there we go. Now, next step, do your mirrors. Okay, so going across, we're at the at 0 for x. Sorry, at 0 for y, we're 2 away from the line. So we're going to go 2 to the right, and then go up here to 5, and we're 3 away. So 1, 2, 3. And look at that. We have a parabola. There you go, and we connect our points, and there you go. Okay, pretty simple process, right? Okay, overall not too hard. Just got to remember your steps and got to remember that formula, right? The negative b over 2a. Okay, so you have a couple, try these. One at the bottom of page 10 and one at the top of page 11. So give those a shot, then come on back and see how you did. Okay, so let's see how we do here. We have for our first try this. Y equals 2x squared plus 4x minus 3. So let's first find our axis of symmetry. X equals negative b over 2a. So that is negative 4 over 2 times 2, which 2 times 2 is 4, 4 over 4 is 1, and we have our negative. So our axis of symmetry is at negative 1. So we're going to draw our line at negative 1. Okay, if we look at our graph, which way is our parabola going to open up? That's right, it's going to open up because it's positive 2. So we want to make sure we go all the way to the top of our graph. Okay, and now that we have negative 1 for our x, let's do y equals 2 times negative 1 squared plus 4 times negative 1 minus 3. 2 times negative 1 squared, that's 2 plus negative 4 minus 3. 2 and negative 4 is negative 2, and minus 3 gives us negative 5, right? Make sure I did that right. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so we go down 5 on our axis of symmetry, and there is our vertex, and we know that's the lowest point. Okay, so now to our little graphs here, x and y. So I always like to pick 0 because it's easy. So y equals 0 plus 0 minus 3, so 0, negative 3. So at 0 for x, you go down to negative 3. And let's plug in 1. So 1 in there, you got 2 times 1 is 2, plus 4 is 6, minus 3. That will give us 3. So we go at 1, we go up to 3. And there you go. And so now we do our mirrors. Okay, our symmetric points. And we got 2 over at this point. And there we go. There's our graph. And there's our graph. Okay. And it opens up like it's supposed to. Okay, it is symmetric along our axis of symmetry. We are good to go. Hopefully yours looks like that. Okay, let's go on to the next. Try this. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Which way is this graph going to open? Well, hopefully you said down. We have a negative x squared, so that means it's going to open down. Okay, let's find our axis of symmetry. X equals negative b over 2a. So that equals negative 2 over 2 times negative 1. Don't forget that. So negative 2 over negative 2 is negative 2. Negative 1. And then you got a negative, which makes it positive 1. So our axis of symmetry is at 1. I do a pretty good job of freehanding that line up and down, I have to say. Alright, and then we plug in our 1 into our formula and we get y equals negative 1 squared plus 2 times 1 plus 1. So negative 1 squared, well 1 squared is 1, and then you make it negative, so that's negative 1. So you got negative 1 plus 2 plus 1, so that ends up being just 2. Okay. Alright, and so our point is 1, 2. Okay, so that is where our vertex is. And we said it's going to be pointing down, so that is our maximum value for our graph. Okay, and that's going to open down. Alright, now let's pick 2 points. Okay, again, I always like to do 0. So we got, let's plug them in, x and y. If you plug 0 in, you have 0 squared plus 0 plus 1, so y is 1. So at 0, y is 1. There you go. And let's plug in, because we're on the one side of the graph there, okay, let's go ahead and plug in, how about negative, what the heck, let's do negative 2. How about that? So on this one we have negative 2 squared plus 2 times negative 2 plus 1. Okay, so negative 2 squared is 4, and then you make it negative, so that's negative 4. And 2 times negative 2 is also negative 4, and plus 1. So we got negative 4 is negative 8, plus 1 is negative 7. So at negative 2, we go down to negative 7, which is right there. Okay, now we do our symmetrical points. So we're 1 away right there, and we are 3 away down here. So 1, 2, 3, and then we connect. See how good I can draw this. It was alright. Wasn't great, but it was okay. Alright, there's our parabola. It is opening down just like it should. Okay, we have our vertex there. Looks pretty good. Hopefully that makes sense to you. I don't think it's overly complicated. Just make sure you know what you're doing. Alright, give them a shot. Ask me questions if you have some.